is to get defined, chiseled abs, or at the very least, make your abs more visible from what they are right now. And no doubt this goal is great. Getting visible abs is a goal that everyone likes to have, but planks are never going to get you there. The reason is, if you have your abs over here, let's just say this is your abs, your bone is over here, right? And you've got a layer of skin around here. And so because of that, when you look from the outside, so when people look from the outside or where your shirt is, you see the layer of fat first and then the abs underneath. Why this is a problem is, if you do train your abs and you make your ab muscles larger, well, no doubt the actual ab muscle is getting larger and larger and larger. But since there's still that layer of fat above the ab muscles, at no point in time in the future will you ever get shredded, defined abs. Your abs may become a bit more visible, but it's too tiny to even be able to tell. Which means we need to tackle this problem in another way. And that comes to step one, where we actually need to remove the layer of fat. Or not all of it, because you gotta have some essential fat. Some amount of subcutaneous fat, which is your outer layer fat, is definitely important. But if we get rid of a large portion of it, the smaller that above layer of fat is, the more visible your deeper inside abs can appear to the outside world, because we want to flex. The only way to lose fat, you may have heard it time to time again, but it must be restated, and that is a calorie deficit. You gotta go on a cut. It's the only way where your body can lose the fat. And now you may ask, can't you just do planks? Can you not go to the gym? Can you not exercise, get huge? And when you do exercise, isn't your fat converting into muscle? Well, not quite. What's actually happening is that fat and muscle are two different types of tissues, and which means one cannot really be converted into the other. However, you can lose fat while also building muscle at the same time, and then the ratios of each, so the fat ratio has decreased to the muscle ratio, and that's what it looks like. Your fat has converted to muscle, where in reality you've lost fat whereas built muscle. So then why is it that only calorie deficits will help us lose fat? Well, if you think about it, if you were to continue your day by day, and do nothing else, so like not going to calorie deficit, not going to surplus, just eat what you're eating, well, you're not going to lose fat anytime soon, because your body doesn't have the need to lose the fat. So why would a calorie deficit make our body need to lose the fat? Well, it's because calorie deficit basically means we're eating less than we intake. So our body requires a certain amount of calories to function, to hit the gym, to pose, to live, to sleep, to eat, all of those functions. Your body needs calories. It needs energy to perform those things. And it gets that energy from usually external sources such as food. Food is the only external source. But when you're in a calorie deficit, you're providing less energy from the food to what your body needs. So where does it get that remaining energy from? And that's your fat, your adipose tissue, as the scientific term is. So it uses your fat, which is a very easy and fast source of energy. Relatively fast, not as fast as food, but faster than muscles. So it goes to your tissue first, your fat tissue. That's why you start eating less, you start getting hungry, your body goes to the fat, and now it's burning the fat, reducing the fat, making your fat smaller, outer layer becomes smaller, more defined abs. Make sense? All in a circle. And though that's the first step that you need to follow, if you want to maximize your chances of getting defined abs or even visible abs, you simultaneously, while going on a deficit, or even if you're not going to go on a deficit immediately, but in the future you will, from now onwards, if you do want to see defined abs after your cut, after your calorie deficit, regardless whether you're in deficit or not, you need to start training your abs. And it's quite common sense, and it's quite intuitive, just like your bicep. If you've never trained your bicep and you go for the bicep flex, you're not going to see any peak. But if you go to the gym, train those biceps, the bicep curl, easy bar curl, XYZ, then over time your bicep becomes larger. And because of that, people can see your bicep when you flex. Same for your abs. If you train your abs, they become bigger. Becoming bigger means more chance of them becoming visible. But remember, we've got the layer of fat that we need to first take care of, which we already have. And this is the second problem of the plank. Not only doesn't it contribute to the calorie deficit, so it does not help with losing fat, the actual losing of fat, it also is a quite poor exercise choice when it comes to building ab muscle. And I'll explain exactly why. So we've got the abs. You've got ab exercises to build the abs. Just as you've got your bicep, you've got bicep exercises to build the bicep. Now, the most common bicep exercise that everyone knows is the standard bicep curl. So, you've got your hand down here and then you curl the weight up. So you're holding a dumbbell and then you curl your weight up to here. So, and then you relax and then curl up again, right? Now, if you feel your bicep when you're actually doing this motion, when you first have your arm out like this and then you bring your arm in to your face or like to your shoulder, well, your bicep squishes in together, and this is called a contraction. Like your bicep is contracted together, and then when you bring your arm back out, your bicep has lengthened, so it's expanded. So contraction, lengthened, right? Now remember, contraction, lengthen. Remember that. The second thing I want you to do is don't contract it, don't lengthen it. Just keep your arm halfway through the bicep curl action. So don't keep it at the bottom, but don't curl it all the way to the top. Keep it somewhere halfway and feel your bicep. And just keep your hand there. So it's not contracting or expanding. It's just staying like that, right? So that's the second thing. So we've got contracting and lengthening, and we've got just staying by itself. Now I want to ask you the question. What do you think is more difficult? Holding a weight and then going all the way up, contracting it, fighting gravity, and then bringing it back down, or just holding it in its place? And don't be dumb, don't be dumb. It's contracting and lengthening. That's why the bicep curl is like the most famous exercise. It's known to build biceps. Just holding the weight halfway through the motion doesn't build as much muscle because your bicep isn't required to bring the weight up and bring it back down. So coming to my final point, what I'm trying to say is that exercises which require you to contract that muscle that you're targeting. So in the bicep curl, you're targeting your bicep. When you contract it, that is called a concentric phase. And when you lengthen your bicep, it's called an eccentric phase. Exercises with a concentric and eccentric phase build much more muscle per rep basis. So if you do one rep of a concentric eccentric exercise, it will build more muscle than just a static one, which is called isometric. So you're not lengthening or contracting your muscle, just as it is. That's called isometric. So in a plank, well, your abs are never lengthening or contracting. In a hanging leg raise or a sit-up or a sliding plank. And because of that, it's an isometric exercise. So you're much better off switching it for an exercise which has a concentric and eccentric phase, and that will help you build your abs much quicker. Pair that with a calorie deficit and you're on your way to getting the visible abs. May the gains be with you. See you in the next one.